Hello everybody, this is Hmblittleman here, and today I will be going over my 2026 wrestling predictions. Just sort of getting back into the swing of content creation. Let's see where this goes. So, first things first, got my WWE stuff. I currently watch WWE, NXT, TNA. I do not watch AEW. I do try to keep up with it, but I do not watch it. So, obviously, grain of salt with that. And this, obviously, this is all just fun. Not taking anything too seriously. No stakes or anything like that. Just kind of taking a gander at what 2026 might offer us wrestling fans. So, first things first, I feel like it's pretty blatant at this point. Braun Breaker will win the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm not so sure about it happening on January 5th. But, with the reveal of Austin Theory, it very well could happen January 5th. We'll have to see. I do think for sure this is going to be the year Braun Breaker wins that World Heavyweight Championship. Number 2, Seth Rollins will win the World Heavyweight Championship, likely either from Braun Breaker or losing it to Braun Breaker. That was my cat back there. I feel like that's also another foregone conclusion, especially the way that he lost it and the way that it perfectly set up into a future feud. Next, Gunther will win the WWE Championship. After retiring John Cena, I think he's a shoo-in to win the title next year. Not really much else to say there. I just think he's gonna get that title. Next up, bit of an open-ended one. Joe Hendry will win tag team championships on main roster WWE with a wrestler he's currently not teaming or associated with. I think they're going to want to kind of get him involved pretty quickly out of the gate. And I do think that is not going to be Intercontinental or United States. I think it's going to be, honestly, I think it's going to be a SmackDown Tag Team Championship with, if I just pull up the current WWE roster, I could see it being with R-Truth. I could see it being with, honestly, Apollo Crews. Looking through the names, I could honestly see it with The Miz. I could see it being a bit of a strange bedfellows with The Miz. But yeah, I think he's going to end up winning the Tag Team Championship, one of the Tag Team Championships this year. I think we will get a reveal of another Americano. Sort of off rip, my guess is going to be that, Ludwig Kaiser is with Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. I think when Chad Gable's ready to return, they're going to put the Creed brothers under a mask as well. You've got a built-in 3 versus 3 feud there. I think that'll do great. Next up, I think as great as the moment was, I think heel New Day have sort of run their course. I think they will turn face. I think just like their heel turn, Big E will be involved in that. I'm guessing something will happen where Big E will kind of get them together and be like, hey, look, what's going on? Knock it off. You had your fun. We gotta stop. You gotta get back to the way you were. I think with that, Grayson Waller will get a new tag team partner. I don't think WWE sees Grayson Waller as a singles guy, unfortunately. I think his little run in NXT where he kind of, got involved with Shawn Michaels and he temporarily retired Johnny Gargano. I think that's the extent of his singles run. I think he deserves a singles run, honestly. But as far as how WWE sees him, not to play knowing Triple H, but I think he's not in it for a singles run. Someone who I think may be in it for a singles run. I think one of the Wyatt family, one of the Wyatt Six, will get a singles title. And I don't necessarily think it's going to be Uncle Howdy. I think it could be Uncle Howdy, and I'm not talking world title at all. Honestly, at this point, I could see Joe Gacy taking a quick pop down to NXT, picking up that speed title. That would count for this prediction. But yeah, I see one of the Wyatt family. And it could even be Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross could be a fun women's United States champion. Next, I think Leon Slater will sign with WWE. I feel like that's one of the most obvious ones on the list, right up there with Braun winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Leon Slater, phenomenal talent, so amazing. The way that he recovered that botch that AJ Styles had, that unfortunate phenomenal forearm slip up, the way he seamlessly recovered that, kid's got a future. I think he'll sign with WWE. Possibly related, I think we're going to get a 1-2-3 kid style title win. I feel like the last one we kind of got was on purpose, so not counting Thea Hale very recently. She deserves that title. She does not deserve it like that. Really, really bummer. I hope that doesn't stick with her or stick with Blake Monroe, but always glad to see Thea with gold. But yeah, I think we're going to see a 1-2-3 kid style. I think the last one before that was Leon Ruff winning the North American Championship from Johnny Gargano. I think you can tell such great stories with that, like, upset win. And obviously 1-2-3 Kids wasn't a title win, but that sort of cocky heel, I'll defend my championship against anybody that's under 5'5", under 100 pounds, really stack the deck against his opponent. Opponent picks up a big win, gets that title. Not at all an underdog. I think Obafemi will win 2 championships this year. I'm not committing to what those 2 championships are. Could be a couple of US title reigns, could be a couple of Intercontinental title reigns. I do think he's going to SmackDown. Could be a world title reign. I think it would be very, very, very interesting. I feel like if Braun didn't win a world title in his debut year, no one's going to, honestly. No matter how much Oba deserves it. I think just that time has kind of passed. Here's a bit of a specific one. I think Sol Ruca will win the Women's United States Championship while being a champion in NXT. Now, that could be NXT Women's, that could be Women's North American, that could even be Women's Speed. But I think Sol Ruca is going to be double champ Sol 2 belts, one being the Women's United States Championship, and I do think it is going to be the United States Championship. I don't think she's going to Raw. I think SmackDown division needs that great refresh. They've got like 6 women right now. It's awful. I think Sol's going to come up. She's going to win the Women's United States Championship while being a champion in NXT. Next, this one's sort of dependent on how Penta's doing. He did get physical last night at the time of recording in AAA, but I think the Lucha Brothers will win the tag team titles at some point. Not much else to say there. I think that's what they've been building to last half of the year. I think the MFTs will splinter. I don't necessarily think they're going to have a civil war. I don't necessarily think they're going to feud, but I do think they will splinter off. I think maybe they bring up another guy. Maybe Lance got let go, but I don't know. Maybe Zilla. He's nowhere near ready, but hasn't stopped anybody before. But yeah, I think they'll sort of splinter off. Maybe Solo and JC Mateo, and then the Tongas all together. Either way, I think they will become 2 separate groups. Next, I think Montez Ford is going to get a singles run. I feel like it's said every single year since that big Elimination Chamber match, but I think Montez Ford, this is going to be his year. He and Angelo have been off television for quite some time now, and I really do think it's to set up a singles run. Now, I don't necessarily think he could win the United States Championship. I think he's got a shot. I'm not holding, that's not part of the predictions. I just think he's going to get a singles run, maybe sort of like, I was going to say sort of like Big E's first singles run, first post-New Day singles run, but he did win the Intercontinental Championship. But yeah, I do think he's going to get a singles run. Again, not necessarily winning a title, but singles run. I hope I'm wrong about this, honestly, at least the retirement aspect, but I do believe that Rey Mysterio will retire at WrestleMania in a Lucha de Apuestas match. Whoa, did not say that right at all. Lucha de Apuestas, mask versus title, or mask versus hair. I could honestly see it being mask versus hair and career versus title against Dominic Mysterio. But yeah, I think Rey Mysterio is going to retire at WrestleMania to Dominic Mysterio. And I think that's honestly been the story that they've been telling since the start of their breakup. If you look at WrestleMania, they have faced each other at 2 out of 3 WrestleManias now. I think they're kind of going for a As weird as this is, because it's nowhere near similar. Rock versus Austin, where they fight each other at 2 WrestleManias in a row. Was it in a row? 17, 18, skip 19. No, not 18. It was 17, 19, it was 15, 17, 19. 15, 17, 19. That's what it was. So not really anything at all like Austin versus Rock, but I do think they're going to, getting back to the meat of it, I think Rey Mysterio is going to retire at WrestleMania to Dominic Mysterio in a title for career, mask for hair match. I think Rhea versus Io will happen again at some point this year. 1-on-1, not necessarily for a title. Honestly, I could see it being an Elimination Chamber or Money in the Bank qualifier match. But I do... Oh, and another thing I want to be clear about, face versus face. Talking full-on Evolution 2025 friendly competition. I think they're going to face each other again this year. And I think it's going to be an amazing match. Next, I think Liv Morgan is going to win the world title and the Intercontinental title. Not at the same time, just throughout the year. I think Jacob Fatu will have a high-profile world title match, possibly against Gunther. Not necessarily on a PLE. They've been sticking to 5 matches per card. They've been putting a lot of big money matches on for Raw and SmackDown. I think Jacob Fatu is going to get a world title match, and it's not just going to be open challenge, or I know they were kind of leading to, hey, you helped me out against Drew McIntyre, let me give you a title match. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be a full-on, he earned it, he's feuding for it. I don't think he's going to win, but I do think he's going to get that high-profile match. I think WWE is going to reference Hiroshi Tanahashi's retirement. I know there's been some iffiness. I guess they were kind of, there was a lot of backstage politicking going on. I think even regardless of all of that, they are going to give a quick shout out, even if it's just Corey Graves or Michael Cole saying, hey, over the past weekend, Hiroshi Tanahashi, or not weekend, whatever it is, Hiroshi, Jesus Christ, I was about to say pass away. No, Hiroshi's career was compromised to a permanent end. No, I think they're going to call it out, pay their respects to his career, same way they did with Sting. I think Ivar will get a small singles run, something that I don't want to do with these predictions. I don't want to predict deaths or injuries, but I think something's going to happen where Ivar will get a small singles push like he's had in the past when Eric has been injured. That could be as simple as maybe Eric gets kayfabe taken out and Ivar steps up to the person that took him out. But I think he will get a small singles run. I think they really like Ivar. I think they really like putting him in those situations, even when it's not necessarily, created entirely by their choice and they are sort of forced to by an injury to Eric. Either way, I do think they do like putting Ivar in those situations, and I think we're going to see that again this year. Charlotte Flair will win a world title. I mean, come on. I think she's going to win it. I think it's going to be her best received world title win since 2015. I think she has done wonders rehabilitating her image with Bliss. And I think it's all sort of leading to getting back in that world title scene. I do think that either Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, Aleister Black, Shinsuke Nakamura, or Sheamus will retire. That's my guess for this year. One of those, or multiple. I really don't want any of them to. I really like all 5 of those guys. But I do think they're sort of leading to that. Especially, honestly, if I had to choose one from this list, I'd say Nakamura. Yeah, Nakamura or Sheamus. I think Sheamus will win the Intercontinental Championship. They've been pushing it way too hard. It's been way too much of a will they, won't they, for it to end up as a they didn't. I think he's going to get that Intercontinental Championship. He's going to get that Grand Slam. I think it's going to be an amazing moment. I'd love for it to happen in sort of the UK area. I doubt they've got something planned for Ireland specifically, but at least that sort of area, I think Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan will turn face. I think Dom's already heading there. And I think it's sort of the best next step in the Judgment Day Civil War, with Finn and Roxanne staying heel. Don't know who gets custody of Raquel Rodriguez in that scenario, or JD McDonough. We'll let the courts decide that. I think Tiffany Stratton is going to win the United States Championship. I think Roxanne Perez is going to win the Intercontinental Championship. And I think the Women's Tag Team Championship will either be fully or partially vacated. Sort of a situation that happened with, who was her partner? Chelsea Green and Carmella or Sonya Deville. I cannot remember which one it was. I think Sonya Deville. Where it sort of got partially vacated. That one slot was vacated, and then Piper Niven sort of jumped in. I think either that or a full vacate will happen sometime this year of the Women's Tag Team Championship. Now, my list of people that I think are getting called up this year. Obafemi, big one. Trick Williams, another big one. Fatal Influence, I think it's time. Ethan Page is well overdue. I think Ricky Saints might. It's going to be tricky now that NXT is on the CW. Because is the CW going to want so many of their big stars to get called up? But I do think Saints is going to get called up. I think Sol Ruka's going to get called up. And I do think Zarya's going to get called up with her. And just to add to that, I don't think they're going to break up. I think Sean has played this before with Fraxium, where he sort of teases it for months on end, and then actually, no. There was no sarcasm in Fraxium and Zaruka are fine. They're just fine. I think they're going to stay together. I think they're going to be a mainstay in the tag team division at the very least. I think Tatum's going to get called up. I think Kalani Jordan, Jordan Grace, Fatal Influence. I think Javon Evans is more than ready. I will not be surprised if his call-up comes in 2027, just because of how pivotal he is to NXT right now. Speaking of NXT, let's go to the NXT predictions. I think Tony D'Angelo will stay in NXT. I don't know what their plans for D'Angelo are. I thought for sure he would return from his hiatus on the main roster. Now I don't know what they're doing with him. It's gotten to the point where I'm just going to play it safe and say, yeah, it's not his time yet. I think Dark State will dissolve. I am not a fan of Dark State. I think the parts of Dark State are good. I like Saquon Sugars. I like Deion Lennox. I like Osiris Griffin. Haven't seen enough of Cutler James, if I'm being totally honest. I do think they will dissolve. I don't necessarily think they're going to feud, but I do think they will break up. Miles Bourne, future NXT champion. I think he's going to win it this year. Tavian Heights, North American champion. Ren Sinclair, Speed champion. I'd love to see her win the Women's North American Championship. It's just become clear that that's not where they see her. Bummer. It really is, but yeah. I don't see her winning it. I do see her winning the Speed title, though, and she's earned it. I think she's great. It's a bummer she hasn't won gold yet. I think Shiloh Hill is going to impress a lot of people. There's no real quantifiable thing for this prediction, but I think he's going to have a breakout year this year. And I think Private Party will debut. That is it for my NXT predictions. It's so hard because you never know who from the Performance Center is actually going to stick. So it can't be like, I think this person's going to come up and do this. But yeah, that's my predictions for NXT. Now on to TNA. I think Dani Luna is going to win the Knockouts Championship. I think she's a great talent. I think she really, really proved herself in the feud with Indy Hartwell. I think that Indy's performance at Bound for Glory, it really feels like Dani Luna went into future matches saying to management, you're going to regret putting Indy in that spot instead of me. Whether or not they do, who knows? But I think that's sort of the mindset she's had, and I think it's going to pay off. I really do think she's a special talent, and she's going to win the Knockouts Championship. A not-so-special talent. I do unfortunately think Tessa Blanchard is also going to win the Knockouts Championship. I do want to be clear. My gripe with Tessa is obviously the elephant in every room she steps into. It is the racism. She is unfortunately a very good wrestler. Her match with Jordan Grace when she came back was amazing. Nobody has an issue with the wrestling. I do think she's not worth the fight. She's not worth the struggle. She's not worth it. But I think they're going to try to make her worth it. I think she's going to win the Knockouts Championship. A big sun will come up tomorrow prediction. Santana's going to win the World Heavyweight Championship. I feel like this is just a cheap little one to give me a column a tally in the dub column. But yeah, I think Mike Santana's going to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Another possible retirement one, I think Kazarian, Eric Young, one of the Hardys, Moose, or Rosemary will retire. I think one of them will end up retiring next year. I think M by Elegance will go back to being Maggie Lee, and I think she's going to have a breakout year. I'm a little biased because she's a local, but I think she is a great talent. I think she's got a great look. She's very tall. That's enough to stand out, honestly. And I think I don't think she's like phenomenal in the ring, but I think she's green enough I think she is green enough to expect less. I think she's better than she should be at her point. So I think she's going to become Maggie Lee, or maybe even something else. We've got Lei Ying Lee. We've got another Lee, I think. I feel like we've got another Lee in TNA. So she might have a different name. But I do think she's going to have a breakout year. I think Mustafa Ali will win the World Heavyweight Championship. I think Myron Reed, if the Rascals stay in TNA, I know there's been some iffiness about whether or not they will. If they stay in TNA, I do think Myron Reed is going to win the X Division Championship. And I would love to see, this is not an official prediction, I would love to see a Rascals Fatal 4-Way. Toss the four of them out there, have them fight for the X Division Championship. I think Trevor Lee is going to return. I've been missing him something fierce. He's not in any of the companies I watch, and that's a real shame. And I definitely could find his stuff. I'm sure it's out there on YouTube, and I'm sure he is killing it. But yeah, I want him on a show I watch. Kind of out of left field here. I think the Good Hands are going to win a tag team title. I don't know if it's going to be as part of Order 4, but I do think they're going to win a tag title. I don't think it's going to be a long reign. It could be just a transitional reign, but I think they're going to win it. I think Mance Warner is almost a sink or swim, kind of in a sense. And again, this is kind of goes along with my, I don't want to predict negativity, but I do think he will either get a big push or he will no longer be working with TNA. And I don't feel like there's going to be any in between. I think he's too good to just be lower card. Granted, I did say the same thing about Jake Something, but I think he's too good to be just lower card. Whether or not he's got the ego for that, I don't know. An ego it has negative connotations, obviously, but ego can be a good thing. In this sense, I mean it in a positive sense. Whether or not he has the bet on himself to get out of there if he doesn't get a big push. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be any in between. I think he's going to either get a big push or leave. I think Matthew Rehwoldt, I can never say his name, Aiden English, I think he'll wrestle again. Probably just a one-off. Maybe even just in the Bound for Glory Battle Royal. But I think he'll wrestle for TNA again. I think the JDC retirement is a swerve. I really do. I think BDE is going to get a title win. My gut says X Division. Could be international. Honestly, they could even create a new championship at this point. But I think BDE is going to get a title win. He's going to make I think he'd be great he's actually a decent in the ring. And he's got that following, get a little vlog. I won the X Division Championship. I think that'd be great for TNA, and I think that's a direction they could go in. Some AEW predictions. I'm not going to go too in-depth with these just because I don't really watch AEW. Again, I do keep up, but I don't watch, so it's kind of tough. I think Edge and Christian are going to win tag titles. I think one of the members of FTR is going to win the TNT Championship. At least I think TNT. Overall, I have one of them winning a singles title, whether that's TNT, National, Continental, or Ring of Honor. I think Ace Austin will win a Ring of Honor title or the Trios Championship. Basically, he'll hold gold sometime this year, and he deserves it. I think Adam Cole will transition to an on-screen role full-time while he hopefully recovers or just transitions into his non-wrestling life, which sucks to say. I think somehow, some way, Athena will vacate the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. I think that'd be garbage. If that happens, it almost sucks to say, but I hope it's because of injury and not a decision being made. But I do think that they're building up Athena's Ring of Honor World title reign, and I don't think it's going to have a good payoff. I just don't. And again, don't take this too seriously. Just sort of gut feeling. I think Bryan Danielson will wrestle a one-off. I think it could be under a mask. He was, I want to get this right. Let me look it up and get this right. All right, Pro Fight DB is done. Let's go to cage match. Yes, when he wrestled on Dark as Infinito. I think we'll do that again. Just a quick one-off match, you know. Some people I think that are going to leave AEW, Britt Baker, Jeff Jarrett, and Scorpio Sky. Jeff Jarrett, I think he will not take it well. He's been getting a little bitter ever since his retirement angle didn't go very well. So we'll see how that ends up. I think Josh Alexander will hold a championship this year. No clue what that is. Could be tag team, could be trios, could be pure, could be TNT, could be ROH TV. But I think he's going to hold the belt this year. And again, just like Ace Austin, I'm a little biased because I'm a TNA guy first and foremost, but I think he's going to deserve it. I think Kenny Omega, and again, this is a bit more negative than I'd like to be, but I believe that Kenny Omega will either become fully part-time or fully retire. And I mean fully part-time as in wrestle on pay-per-views only. I think, and I mean no disrespect to him, again, please don't take this too seriously. I think it's become clear that his body has kind of reached his limit. I think he's still good. From what I've seen, he's still very good. But I do think there's some clear pain going on there. And I think after the career he's had, he's earned it. I think Fletcher's going to win the World Heavyweight Championship. I think Lashley and possibly MVP will leave. And I think Shelton Benjamin is going to stay. I don't know the extent of Ospreay's injury, but if he's back this year, he will become world champion. I think Willow Nightingale is going to win the world title. I think the Outrunners will be transitional champions. Here's a possibly controversial one. I think Toni Storm will not win the world title this year. They've got Stat there right now. I think they've got Hayter waiting in the wings. Obviously this will come out, or this is recorded before World's End, but I think she could be a future contender and actually win. I think you've got a lot of women ready to step up and grab it. And I think putting that back to Toni Storm isn't going to necessarily be the best thing. So I think Toni Storm is not going to win a world title this year. I think Big Show will have a match. I'm not calling him Paul. This one kills me. I do not think Nyla Rose will wrestle on television again this year. Or will wrestle on television this year. I don't think we're going to see her on television until 2028 at the earliest. Well, I suppose January of 2029. That sucks. Again, I'm not super familiar with her work, but I've liked what I've seen. But given just everything going on right now, I don't think she's going to be on TV until something bigger than wrestling happens. Here's a bit of a specific one. I think Harley Cameron will get refrigerated. Now, hold on. I think Harley Cameron is going to get Pillmanized, in a sense, to further someone else's story. Possibly leading to a Willow title win, but I do think Harley Cameron is going to get, big old quotes, taken out to fuel someone else's story. And I know that's super specific. I think Gabe Kidd is going to sign with AEW, but continue his anti-AEW gimmick. I think Mark Briscoe will get a world title pay-per-view match. Not Ring of Honor. Not Ring of Honor world title. And not Ring of Honor pay-per-view. AEW World Heavyweight Championship on an AEW pay-per-view. And I think Daniel Garcia will leave the Death Riders, go on his own maybe half a month, and end up with a new faction. Final in general prediction. I think I'm going to actually stick to uploading this year. I've really hit that desire to make stuff. I've hit that desire to create. And not just the desire to make and create, but the desire to share what I make and create. And that's a very exciting thing to have back. As of recording this, it's been 5 or 6 years since I uploaded my last video. Oofda. So much has happened since then. But yeah, I'm ready to get back into it. And if you're on this ride with me, that's awesome. I hope I stick the landing better than New Day's heel turn. And that has been my 2026 Wrestling in General predictions. I will revisit this at the end of 2026, hopefully, fingers crossed. No promises. The plan is to revisit this at the end of 2026 and see what I got wrong, see what I got right, see what I got maybe partially right. So yeah, that is the end of this. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Link to socials down below. Not a whole lot there, to be honest, but I'll link them. And, yeah. Bye.